Greetings and salutations, my comrades and amigos. Pokemon Master Skywalker here with another video. I am once again joined by Jexelix.
Hello, this video is the How to Use Cards Effectively series, and it's our second episode. In this video, we'll be going over what cards are used in the training camp and how you can use them.
No, not training camp, Goblin Stadium.
Goblin Stadium, that is. That was last video.
Yes. Now, before we get into that, we would like to make note of the fact that this time we are not in a public area, but we are in an area with a cat. So there could be vocal interruptions of the feline variety.
Yeah, for those of you who didn't understand what he said, he means a meow.
Yes.
Anyway, so just a little disclaimer before we get into the video. All these cards are how we use them effectively, and if you lose a battle using the cards in this manner, we cannot be held responsible, so don't hate in the comments.
Okay. Let's get started with the first of 4 goblin-related cards. Very fitting for the Goblin Stadium. It's the Spear Goblins.
Yep, and for 2 elixir, you can place 3 spear-throwing green monsters, which are very effective with dealing with cards such as the Skeleton Army, Skeletons, and, minions, which are unlocked in a later arena.
Yeah, mainly good against air troops, although it can be used effectively against things like Skeleton Army, as you were saying. Often I like to use it against, like, Balloon, Lava Hound, or even Baby Dragon.
Yeah, however, these don't really have too much damage, only doing 24 at level 1. However, they are also very effective against the tower.
Yep, so you can combine it with something like, say, the Giant or another tank-like troop.
If you were looking for a really cheap push, perhaps with the Knight.
Yes.
As, they are very effective against cards like that.
Or something I like to do at the beginning of a game, and obviously you can't do this while you're in Arena 1, but Spear Goblins and Fire Spirits at the beginning of the game, so that you just get a nice, approximately 500 damage off on the tower, just as a nice starter sort of thing.
Just for 4 elixir, which is very cheap. Anyway, so we're droning on a bit of how we can use this card well, and that is because it's a very good card. But it shouldn't be used against splash damage cards that do a decent amount of damage in a decent radius, such as the Dark Prince, the Bomber, and anything else? And the Valkyrie.
Yes.
Anyway, so that concludes our talk about the Spear Goblins. Moving on to the Goblins.
The Goblins are very similar to the Spear Goblins, but they're slightly more powerful. They do, I think, double the damage, if I'm recalling those numbers correctly.
Yeah, the Spear Goblins did 24.
They've got approximately 50% more health, so that's very good.
Yeah.
A bit of, slightly better as a tank, but not really a tank-type card. It's sort of useful as an upgrade of skeletons, so you can use it if you've got something coming at you such as a Prince or a P.E.K.K.A. Not super effective there, but will stall it effectively.
Yeah, don't quote, I'm just gonna check if it can be beaten by Zap. Nah, the Zap does the exact amount of damage that it has health, so it's not very effective if you know your opponent has that. Anyway,
but sometimes it can be used for drawing that out, like if they use Zap on your goblins, and then you might place something else, such as Skeleton Army or Minion Horde, which would then not be affected by Zap.
Yeah, another very effective way to use this card is to place a goblin barrel on the tower and have the goblins just before the bridge. If a player is completely unprepared for this, then you should do at least 500 damage, as the goblins have a very high amount of damage per stab. But if your opponent has arrows and it is very difficult to pull off this strategy. Anyway, yeah, let's move on.
Yep. Our first rare is the Goblin Hut. Goblin Hut is sort of effective if you place it at the back and you sort of use it to support a push. So like say you would have a giant push and then you'd put the Goblin Hut behind, and as the giant goes forward, more spear goblins would accumulate and you can do heaps of damage that way.
Yeah, another popular strategy is the Goblin Hut cycle deck, which I don't think we've explained what cycle decks are. It's when you continuously go through your deck of cards until you spawn, like a multiple of that card. So this is usually done with Hog Riders and Giants.
But in this case, you would be placing multiple Goblin Huts.
Yes.
And then you could have cheap cards such as Skeleton or Simple Goblins, and you just place those around, bit of defense, bit of attack, and you can get heaps of Goblin Huts, and you can get heaps of Spear Goblins coming out.
Anyway.
Something I'll just check. Yep, level 3 Spear Goblins.
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
it's not super good, but it's acceptable. If you've leveled up the Goblin Hut a few times, you do have fairly decent levels on that, somewhat better than the actual
Spear Goblin
cards you might have.
However, since this is rare, it is quite difficult to level up in comparison to a common. Anyway, so yeah, this is to keep it in line with tournament standards. So when the rare is level 7, it is at tournament standard, which means it will be spawning level 9 Spear Goblins, which are what are tournament standard. Anyway, so just don't use the Goblin Hut against things like that do lots of damage in a splash radius, such as the Valkyrie, which we'll be going over next, and the Bomber.
Yeah.
So, speaking of the Valkyrie, let's move on to her.
Valkyrie can be used as a semi-acceptable tank. It's not quite as good as the Giant, but it is cheaper than the Giant, and you can use it as one of the trifecta cards, I believe that's what you called it.
Yes.
With Musketeer and Hog Rider. I don't really understand that combo personally, but apparently it works.
Yeah, I don't use it either, so it's very hard to see what's happening there. Anyway, the Valkyrie is not good at all against anything that attacks from the air, including the baby dragon.
Minion horde, just regular minions, things like that. Or even ranged troops.
Yes.
Such as the spear goblins or archers.
Yeah, but if you have got a skeleton army coming your way, then the Valkyrie is very, very good at stopping them.
Yes.
Okay, so let's move on. The lightning spell is considered by many to be completely useless. And that is because it'll only hit 3 troops, and only for 650 damage, which doesn't even kill the giant, which is what you want to be killing with that.
Now, it is somewhat difficult to use, but I have had many experiences where I have been frustrated by it because it would just like completely knock out a witch I have down the back.
Yeah.
And it sort of ruins my push in that way. And also, sometimes back when I first started the game, I used it with the arrows to deal about 350 damage, I believe, was the amount.
Yeah, roughly.
And it would just like, say there was 300 health, it's just like, yep, let's use lightning arrow combo.
Yeah, I would find that very frustrating when I had a very effective push going, as Skywalker also used the Hog Rider, which also does a decent amount of damage to someone like me who didn't use buildings at the time.
But the thing to watch out for if you are using that combo is that you want to make sure you've only got that one building in the radius, or if there's like other things there, it might target them because they'll have more health. And so that's one way to counter lightning if you know your opponent has it. You can just place lots of troops around your crown tower to protect it.
Yeah, no matter how unlikely it seems, anything with more than 300 health or whatever the crown tower is on in the vicinity will take the hit instead of that king tower. So, which makes it rather ineffective. So, the lightning cannot be used effectively against cards such as the Skeleton Army or Minion Horde, as that is a complete and utter waste of elixir.
Or if it's something with lots and lots of health, such as a giant.
Yeah, as it will only take 650 damage, which is not much at all, considering the giant has, just checking now, 2,000 health, which is only 650 is only about
a third, I guess. Just under a third.
Just under a third. I was going to say just over a quarter. Anyway, so the final card for this video is the Goblin Barrel, which I use, as it is a very, very good card. And as I was saying before, it is used effectively against against the crown tower, as if you place it on the middle, it will go all the way around the crown tower, and the only thing that can actually take it out quickly is a spell such as Zap or Arrows or the Log, if you're a weird person who uses the Log.
Or a lucky person who gets the Log.
Fair enough.
Yeah, see, Goblin Barrel, it can be effectively countered, but something really good, especially in early arenas, is its Goblin level is 6, which is a very good level for it at the beginning. So if you're in Goblin Arena and you get this, that's going to be 4, 5 even levels above your other goblins.
Yeah.
And so that's very powerful to have.
Yeah, they do 80 damage each, which is an instant 240 damage if they are not able to deal with them quickly. So each goblin should get about 2 hits off, like, once the tower starts targeting them.
And so it's very useful combined with other pushes you may have, such as using a giant witch push, and then you just throw that down as well, and it compounds the damage you're doing.
Yeah, just to add that little bit extra pressure. It can be used to apply pressure when you're trying to defend for that little bit longer and keep some pressure on your opponent so they do not get an effective push going.
It's also very good value because for 3 elixir, you can place essentially a goblin's card anywhere you want.
Yeah.
Whereas the goblins themselves are 2 elixir, and then if you consider level, it's very good value, especially early on. Now, I do remember when this card was 4 elixir, and it wasn't quite so good value then, but I feel like 3 elixir is the good spot.
Yeah, which brings it on par with the minor. And there's a cat noise. Anyway.
The vocal feline interruption, as I was referring to it earlier.
Anyway, so some people would say, and I'm one of these people, that removing the impact damage from the Goblin Barrel is actually a buff. As now when you hit the King Tower with it and have the Archer Tower, which can't actually attack, which can shoot the barrel from the area, from the range, from the position it's in, is frozen, then you can do an extremely large amount of damage, as the King does take a while to pull out his cannon. Anyway, so I think that just about wraps up the video. We've got a free chest to unbox.
And let's go ahead and do that while I do the outro. Thank you for watching. As always, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe.